Insider. Music, dramas, movies, musicals, YouTubers, and more. Anyone who is anyone in their field. The Insider of the bunch joins us every Wednesday to share insight from their world on Insider. He is one of the most sought out foreign TV personalities in Korea. It is none other than Tyler Rasch in the studio. Hi.
Hi there everybody. Thanks for having me today.
And in Korean?
네, 여러분 안녕하세요. 반갑습니다. 타이러입니다. 이게 훨씬 더 자연스럽네요. yeah. Yeah, doing radio in English doesn't happen every day. So
Right.
Yeah.
No, trust me. When I first started working at radio, English is my first language.
Right.
But I swear I forgot who I was.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. I feel the same way.
Right, okay.
That's how I feel today.
Okay. So, Tyler, if you do not know, I think if you've ever watched a variety show that had to do with anything that had to do talk about cultures or anything, Tyler's one of your main guys to see on the panel. So, yeah, I mean, you're super busy. Today's a holiday, so thank you so much, first of all, to be joining us in the
thanks
studio.
for having me, actually.
I actually am super excited for today's show.
Awesome.
So today is a holiday. It is Children's Day. Do you have any fur babies to go home to, or?
Yes,
You
actually,
do?
I do. So I have a dog, and she is lovely. Her name is Charlie.
Aww.
Yeah, and she's a Bedlington Terrier. She's 8 months old and super hyperactive and loves to play. So, yeah.
8 months.
Yeah.
You're at the crazy state
Yes,
of
I am in the crazy stage.
fur parent mode.
Yeah, she's been tearing up all sorts of things in my house. You know, I walk her a lot every day. I live close to the park. We go on like an hour walk plus every day. But despite that, she really likes wood. And she's taken to chewing on
I think she's
my
teething
furniture.
too.
Yeah.
I think she's probably teething
yeah.
too. My vet at the time told me that when they start chewing on things, to take ribbon or any type of like rope to kind of pull at their teeth so all the baby teeth can fall out faster.
Okay, I see.
And then they
That's
have a
good tip.
tendency not to like gnaw on
Yeah.
things.
Okay, good point.
Oh, I love how this is just going to be like us talking about random topics. Bisbee's dropping by, one of our loyal listeners. Fam, Tyler's in the studio, so you can start sending any random questions in for today. But first of all, Children's Day is not a big thing for the States. But, you know,
Right.
you're in Korea. You kind of get used to the customs and stuff like that. Do
Right.
you call home? Is there like a niece or nephew or anybody that you like call and be like, Happy Children's Day?
I don't actually, you know, I've never, for me, you know, I came to Korea in 2011 and Children's Day wasn't something that you really run into so much when you're like, when I was in grad school.
All right,
You know, like as
right,
a
right,
student,
right.
like not the other students around me don't like have kids. you
Right.
know? And people are too old to be like, oh, I'm a kid. So
Well, we want to, but...
right, yeah. So more than Children's Day, like Teachers Day was a thing that I sort of adopted a little bit more.
Okay.
But yeah, so I don't really call home, but I do have two really adorable. I have one niece and one nephew.
Aww.
And yeah, so I talk to them on occasion, anyways. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not just because it's, you know, Children's Day, you just
Exactly.
get a chance to say hi.
Right.
Okay. Now, honestly, if I say Tyler to anybody in Korea,
Yeah.
honestly, there's probably nobody that doesn't know you. To the point where like you just even though you've done a lot of like cable programs, you've also done you're pretty much everywhere.
I've done a lot of really different stuff. That's
Right.
true.
So you're
yeah.
kind of everywhere. And so, I mean, you stand out as it is because us foreigners do.
Yeah,
we
that's
do
true.
kind of stand out in Korea.
Good job. Yeah, that's true.
And it's very true. And like everywhere we go, they're like, oh, you speak really good Korean. And so
Right.
we stand out anyways. But obviously now that you are doing TV and you're like a TV
Right.
personality, you kind of become a celebrity. So is there any pros or cons that you've kind of
Oh, yeah.
realized over the years?
I think, you know, at first, I'll always remember when I first started that program, my first TV show was 비정상회담 or non-summit or
Abnormal Summit.
Abnormal Summit or what you may call it. But when I first started that, a friend that I was going to school with, she turned to me and said, "You sure you want to do this? You know, if you do it, you can't go back." And I was like, I'm going to be fine. I don't know what you're talking about.
You're paranoid.
It's like, what are you talking about? I'm just going to I'm only going to do it, for a few weeks. They say it's only happening for a few weeks and then I'm done. I don't know what you're talking about. And then, one thing led to another and it became like a whole career and everything in my entire life just changed. But, good sides, bad sides, it has everything to it. If you're in the bathroom and the person next to you is like, hey, you're Tyler, and you're like, can we finish and then talk about this outside? There are situations where it's super awkward, right? And uncomfortable.
Right.
Or you have a bad day and you're like, or you're not feeling well, you have like a flu, or you're gonna, you need to get home as fast as you can. Days like that when somebody's like, oh hey, I know you, and you're like, I really can't talk right now.
Right,
those times are hard.
Right.
But on, just in the grander scheme of things, there are so many more benefits to having a public profile, and I'm able to do and try new things all the time. And people are much more open to talking to me and listening to what I have to say. And I get to develop a close relationship with not just 1 or 2 or 10 or 20 Korean people, but I get to develop a relationship with the country as a whole. And that's like a whole new experience. It's really fascinating. I've learned a lot from it.
Okay. So you brought up your first show. And I feel like, like you said, probably the writers and everybody's like, oh, it's only going to be 3 weeks. Don't worry.
Yes. Yeah.
Because, if you saw the concept for the show, it would probably ask a lot of question marks. Like, would the viewers like something like this?
Right.
Will this be able to become a regular thing?
Yes.
They probably didn't think too much of it.
Yeah.
But it did really take off. So how did they initially kind of reach out to you for Abnormal Summit?
That's a really good question. So when that program was being planned, actually the person who designed and planned that program, she herself went to do some sort of language study abroad very briefly in the Boston area.
Okay.
And then after, doing English classes and talking to people from other countries in English about random topics, she was like, this would be an awesome TV show. And then she started to develop that as the 비정상회담 format. So that's where it came from.
Okay.
And so I think a lot of people in the media industry didn't believe that it would be possible to find enough non-Koreans that speak Korean well enough to have a debate.
Right.
Right?
Which is not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Because, even in your mother language, having a debate is not easy.
This is true. So there was sort of a need to have a proof of concept for them.
Right.
But so they really started looking for people in ways that you don't really see happen with a lot of other programs, I think. So normally, they'd reach out to 소속사 or the entertainment companies and ask if they have any, foreigners who could come on the show. But I, at the time, was a graduate student and I had a scholarship and my scholarship was running out. I needed some sort of part-time job. I didn't want to teach English. Everything I was doing, I wanted it to be in Korean. So I asked a friend of mine from Indonesia, so what do you do when you find, part-time jobs in Korean? Where are you looking for them? She's like, oh, there's this website. Everything's in Korean and all the work is in Korean. Just look at a few postings and send your resume. So that's what I did. I went to that website. I looked at the postings. Everything, so many companies in Korea are just English, what do you call that? Initials of the company name. It's KXQ or whatever it is, right? So I don't know what they are. But I'm sending my resume and then later I get this phone call. It's like, hey, do you speak Korean? Yeah. Okay, well, we want to interview you. So I go and it's me and then 13 people. Those 13 people are all writers. And they're all asking me these questions what are you doing in Korea? And are you married yet? Yeah, it's a total interrogation. And then I was like, okay, so what's really going on here? I know this is a job or interview, but for what? And they're like, oh, we're going to have a debate in Korean on TV once or twice. Do you want to do it? I was like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into it. It was just, I really needed a part-time job. I didn't want to do something in English. It was pretty random. It wound up being a TV show. And instead of just being a pilot episode, it wound up being,
whatever
a full thing.
Yeah, what ended up being it is. But honestly, whenever I saw the first pilot for this, one thing for us, because here at ARIRANG, we're always searching for people who speak both languages and who are able to, have that broadcasting appeal, because you do have to have it.
Right. That's true.
Yeah, I think we need to find out where that site is first. But anyways, I mean, when I was seeing it from the like production standpoint, I was just like, that staff like really probably like grinded their heart and soul and bones and like signed a deal with the devil to get those people on that panel.
Yeah, no, they tried really hard to find the right people. I think.
Wow. But I mean, okay, so you said that, you know, it was supposed to only be a few weeks. It started off, you
Right.
probably never pictured yourself going to grad school and then now being like a TV personality. So what happened from being just on that show to kind of doing more outside of that?
Good point. So after being on that show for a few weeks, literally, I think the third episode went out, and all of a sudden, people everywhere started talking about it. It was
Right.
like this new crazy thing, and then there was this like whole push from other channels and advertising to try to get the people on our show to help out with ads or campaigns or whatever. And so it actually happened really fast. So in 2014, June was when the first episode went out. And then by the end of the year, I had gotten an offer to be on a TVN program as a permanent member of the cast, which was 문제적 남자.
Problematic man.
Problematic Man, yeah. So within the first 6 months, I got my second major gig in TV. And then once you're on two different channels regularly, then it just sort of
Keeps
piles
going.
on.
Yeah, it just keeps going from there. That's so cool. Okay, now hold on. With the whole Problematic Men, because I feel that even now a lot of like our listeners, because that show is, I feel, a show that it doesn't need to necessarily be in Korean to be intriguing for
This is true.
somebody.
Yeah.
Because it challenges the viewers and
Right.
you as a panel member
Yeah.
on so many different levels. So when they pitched you that job, what was their original like idea? Like how did they pitch that to you?
So actually that program also was being, it was a new program when I went on it. So the PD who was developing that concept was working with the main writer to develop it, and they called me and they're like, we want to meet you and talk to you about this program we want to do where it's like IQ problems but like interviews and like all meshed together. And I was like, okay. So I met up with them and they showed me like a few examples, like these kind of problems, like Mensa problems or IQ test problems. We want to like solve these together. Or like the major tech companies, when you go to their interview and they're like, there's a dragon in the warehouse, how do you get to the other side? And you have to like
they're really weird, right?
Yeah, these really weird interview questions.
Right.
So this is what they wanted to do on television. I'm like, I've never heard of this on TV. This sounds awesome. Let's do it. So I was like fully in, from the get-go.
So pretty much it's not so much that you like had a deal like, oh, I'm going to be like a TV personality.
No,
I love
no.
this. It's just both of those shows were just so different in concept that.
Yeah, I think really at the heart of it, it was, there are actually more and more, non-Koreans who are participating in media, and I hope that trend continues. But there are not very many people who come here for like a scholarly purpose, like they really want to study and they're very academic, and then they also happen to have maybe public speaking skills, and they wind up being useful on television. So I think I provided some sort of different kind of sauce that they couldn't really get from certain other character types that they had access to, and by having access to that, then they could sort of craft these new programs, borrowing my image as a way to sort of kick it off. So if you were to, I mean, everybody has different opinions on this, but if you were to take Problematic Men and it was just going to start with a bunch of Koreans and it's like smart guys solving problems, there are some sort of PR issues with that. Because it's not diverse. And it comes across as this kind of like hangyar, kind of like people like, only from a certain schools, that kind of discussion. Then it just doesn't have the right brand image. So you need something to break it. And I think my character provided that sort of segue into a different way of talking about being smart.
Right. And we also had a few of our idols go in there too, which actually helped that kind of break that stereotype as well. Because if not, I feel that, like you said, the discussion would be like, oh, well, what are you trying to prove that their parents had a lot of money? Like, I mean, if I can send my kid to private school, like I feel that conversation probably would have ended up
But the
coming
diversity
out.
on the show helped it to like, walk around that problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, both of those programs did kind of give you a very brainiac, Mr. Smarty Pants type of an ordeal of an image.
Yes,
has that kind of worked against you in any situation? Have you found yourself in the middle of a conversation or maybe at an event and everybody thinks every answer on the table, but it was just
Yeah, right. So, I mean, my personality, I just personally don't have any problem with saying, I don't know the answer and I can't tell you, I'm not an expert. So, I go to that really quickly when I don't know what I'm talking about. And I'm actually surprised people accept that very well.
Right, because I feel that, a lot of people probably wouldn't be able to kind of swallow that.
Right, yeah. So, I haven't really had a problem with that. But personally, on a psychological level, somebody might ask you to go and give a talk on something, or the viewer or the host of the event think that I am really, really smart and an expert in that field. Because of the image that I have in the media. And then, they send me a request and we have to be well, actually, in this field, I can't really talk on this topic. Right. So it's my responsibility to sort of pick and choose about what I can speak to. And there is sort of a psychological pressure that you get when you show up at a public event and people throw this really complex question at you. And it's should I expect myself to know the answer to that question?
Yeah, to know that answer. Okay. Well, fam, we're having a really fun conversation with Tyler in the studio today. I want to kind of get into how he came to Korea after a song break, because, all of us need to know that information. That's the number one question all foreigners get asked. And still, it's the most intriguing answer.
How I got to... Can you ask a question again?
Oh, I'm going to ask you after the song break.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you after the song break. Don't worry.
It's what question are we talking?
So what we're going to do is take another quick song break. It is Children's Day in Korea. We're bringing the inner child out with a fun conversation here with Tyler in the studio. So we've got Haha singing 키 작은 꼬마 이야기, the story of a little kid, and more of our insider coming up after this. It's Insider Day here on K-Poppin. I'm your host, Isak, and on this Children's Day, as you continue to listen to ARIRANG Radio, we've got, I feel, the most child at heart today. Tyler Rasch is in the studio. He's given us such a upbeat, energetic interview as we're talking a little bit more about stuff. So there's a question that all of us foreigners get asked when we come to Korea. And when we meet anybody who is Korean, when did you first come to Korea? But I'm also genuinely curious too, because as a foreigner, it's kind of different for all of us.
This is true, very true.
I think for some Korean Americans, it's different. I've met some people who have come from literally the middle of nowhere to teach. The story is always different.
It is.
So Tyler, what brought you to Korea out of all the countries in the world?
So I think the reason why I came to Korea in the first place was for language. Okay. I love learning languages.
You speak 8 or 9?
So that's a vague question. Because, right? So for example, I definitely cannot speak 8 or 9 languages. But, for example, with Japanese, I cannot speak Japanese or understand it when I listen to it, but I can read politics or news articles. I know that sounds really weird, but it's fluency in a language depends on how you approach that language.
Right. No. Yes.
So so for me, I love language, and I could talk about it for hours and hours. But literally any language that I have interest in, I immediately start to study and play and sort of taste that language.
Okay.
So French. I grew up in Vermont, next to Quebec, and so we learned French from a young age in schools. So by the time I got to college, I was doing French literature, and then I wanted to learn Portuguese, so I started learning Portuguese. And then people are like, nobody speaks Portuguese in America, you should learn Spanish. So I started learning Spanish. My dad is from Austria, so I wanted to learn some German, so I took German classes, and so on and so forth. And eventually, learned a little bit of Korean by myself. Found it to be fascinating because the language structure is so different. It forces your brain, literally your cognitive experience is different because of just the structure of the language. And that tasted so good to me. So I had to learn it. So that's why I came to Korea.
Wow.
In 2008, I came here as an undergrad student for like an 8-week language course, then went back. Then I moved here in 2013 to come to graduate school to study international politics in the Korean language.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a very different story, right?
Not only that, just like obviously politics is never easy in your mother language.
Sure.
Because just the way that it's worded, I feel.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of party talk, there's a lot of legislations, there's just a lot of
true.
there's a lot of words that you don't really use in your
Yeah.
everyday basis. And so
Right.
I feel that in each language that also kind of
That's
transfers through.
Yeah.
Especially for, I feel, if you're looking at Japanese and Korean politics, you're going to be looking
Right.
at a lot of the Chinese characters
Right,
that are in
exactly,
there.
yeah.
And so you're kind of naturally learning Chinese
Yes,
at the same time.
correct. Right. So I went to Seoul National University, and when you do your MA in, they call it 외교학, right? It's international relations. You have to sort of learn Korean diplomatic history, and when you do that, Korean diplomatic history that's pre-modern is all classical Chinese,
Right.
right? So obviously, I couldn't read that,
Right.
but you have sort of the original text, and then next to it you have 해석본, or like the analysis of that text, and they force you, like, you have to learn enough Chinese characters to understand where in the original text is the part that you're reading in the 해석본, right?
Right.
So it's very high level language learning.
I mean, I even had to take a Korean course because I was a foreign student in Korean college. And I was looking at the book and I got so frustrated because I learned language the other way, not by reading and writing, just by specifically speaking.
Yeah.
And so when you throw me a more traditional book,
Okay.
I'm just like, wait, what is this?
Yeah,
like, this is not Korean.
Yeah.
And so I remember throwing this at my, like, just Korean friends. And I'm just like, tell me this is Korean because
Yeah.
I don't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
I have
Right.
no clue. So you
Right.
just have like a natural knack. Do you feel that this natural, like, fascination with language is something that you were just kind of naturally born with as a gift? Or can somebody actually gain this as a skill?
I think you can gain it as a skill.
Okay.
I think that language learning is universal to humans.
Okay.
And like, there's actually, I'm fascinating this topic, just fascinated by it. But there's a lot of misinterpretation of the research out there about language acquisition.
Okay.
So you've probably heard from different people, throughout your lifetime saying, if you're between the ages of 3 and 12 or whatever, then in this period you should be studying a foreign language because it'll absorb the fastest. And once you get past, once you start to age, like for men over the age of 25, then you won't be able to like all this stuff.
Like your
right?
brain stops functioning
Right.
in that area. Like it's too
Right.
like, okay, yeah.
So that is an improper interpretation of the original research. And the reason why is because in order to say that someone between the ages of, 3 and 12 learns a language faster or better than someone between the ages of 18 and 30, then you have to have a large sample of both groups.
True.
And you have to give them the same curriculum and see how they adapt to that curriculum over an extended period of time.
Right.
But the issue here is that you cannot account for the fact that people's brains change as they grow up in society and they get regular education in a school. As you learn math, as you learn writing, your way to learn is formed by that school, right?
Right.
So by the time you're an adult, it's not that humans, by the time they reach 18, their brains have changed so much that they can't learn language. By the time you've reached the age of 30, you can't learn language anymore because your brain's too old. That's not true.
Right.
It's just false, right?
Right.
But what has happened is that your brain has gone through a socialization process that now thinks you can only learn certain ways. You have to write down the vocabulary in a list. You have to use flashcards. You have to, have your reading session, your writing session, your listening session, and your speaking session. We break it down into this process
Right.
that is actually not natural.
Right.
So it turns out that with language acquisition, whether or not it's your first language or your second language, your eighth language, whatever, the human brain learns language in the same way, under the same conditions.
Huh.
You have to feel a need to realize the word or the expression.
Right. And I feel that I agree with this too, because I've taught just like housewives. So like I've been asked to like do personal, like just tutoring times with them. And I noticed that the way that I'm trying to teach them English is what they can use when their husbands have to move to the U.S. or another English-speaking country, which is what they asked me to do.
Right.
And my homework is not necessarily to ask them to look up words in the dictionary, to write something down. We're not going to be setting up sentences of how I did something or how is, what is, all these other things. And they're just like, I can't function this way. So I get where you're coming out with that. Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So you feel that anybody can kind of work on that. Now, I know that you said earlier that you didn't really want to teach English when you're looking for a part-time job. But Tyler, to be very honest, you come up on my social media
Yes, I do.
teaching English, and you're on. Are you still doing Young Tur's morning
Yes, I am.
program? Yeah,
Yeah.
I used to
Still
listen
doing
to
English
you
there.
on the way to
Yes.
work. So you teach English.
Right. This is true. I
on
do.
many platforms
Yeah.
these days. So how is your approach to this?
Right. So the whole teaching English process for me, I started to do that first with Young Hyung. So he just wanted to sort of meet and talk and sort of we'll have a situation and then he would try to guess what you would say.
Right.
And then we'd work through it together. So very one-on-one. And I was okay with that because it wasn't, like classroom English, right? So I was like, this is cool. And then the online English teaching platform that you'll see me do ads for nowadays on your phone or wherever you're looking, that platform actually, they approached me through someone I know, and they have a very realistic way of teaching the language that I really like.
Okay.
And I wanted to support them with that because I've felt that up until that company had more influence on the market, up until that point, the majority of English language education was extremely exam oriented and almost used it in a way to sort of just judge people.
Right.
Right. And I didn't like that the language was being used to categorize people like that. And the approach was always just, memorize this, memorize that, memorize this, memorize that. I didn't like that approach to language teaching because I think it's wrong.
Right.
So this company, they're like, okay, well, we're going to take, TV shows, cut them into tiny parts, give context to the user. The user will guess what's going on, try to figure it out on their own. If they can't, then we give them a lesson about why it is, what it is, with the context, and then they can get exposed to and really live in that context through media.
Right.
I was like, this is awesome. Like, this is how we should be teaching language in the first place.
Right.
So that then I was like, yes. And at that point, that company was a startup. They didn't have anything, right? So I was like, okay, I believe in what you're trying to do and what you're trying to change. So I partnered with them, and now they're huge.
Right, and I see you everywhere, which is great.
Yeah.
I know I really like that approach too, because I too agree. Side note, I really agree that language should be taken more like a game or something more interesting.
Yes.
So you're not only using your platform to being on trying to help people out and stuff like that, but you also write books.
Yes, yeah. I wrote a book. So
and it just recently became a bestseller.
Yes, it did become a bestseller.
So
yes.
I'll give you some time to kind of PR about it. So what was that?
Right. So in 2020 in July, I published a book called 두 번째 지구는 없다. The English title is There's No Second Earth. And it's about the environment.
Right.
So it's a series of short essays that sort of mix both my background as a Vermonter growing up really in the middle of nowhere in nature and becoming interested in the environment and the earth, as well as my concerns about the environment and the actual scientific facts behind climate change and why it's a crisis and everybody should care. And that's just in a very, really easy way to read and understand. And the book is also 100% Forest Stewardship Council approved paper, and it's very
So what does that
sustainable.
mean for people who don't know what that is?
So in most situations where you have paper from somewhere, you don't know where the paper comes from.
Right.
Right? The paper could be from, a forest in the country you live in. It could be from another country. It could be, from a forest that has a bunch of endangered animals in it. It could be from a forest that's using slave labor.
Right.
There's no way that you're going to know unless it's certified.
Right.
So this thing called Forest Stewardship Council, or FSC, is an international certification to make sure that the paper is sourced and produced sustainably.
Okay.
So if you're using FSC-based products, whether it's paper or a paper bag or it's packaging for a makeup product, or maybe it's a soy milk carton, if it has FSC on it, that means that the trees or whatever was taken from the forest to make that product wasn't taken from somewhere with endangered species. It did not destroy the forest in a way where it cannot be regenerated, and it's not bad for the environment.
Right. So it was sustainable. It's like there was a balance there when it was created.
Exactly. There are actually scientists that go out into the forest and they test to see which species are in the forest, how healthy the water is. The overall ecosystem is monitored.
Right.
So the book was talking about the environment, but I wanted the book itself to also be a sustainable book. And it was the first 100% FSC certified book from 종합 출판사, these like large publishing companies in Korea.
That's so cool.
Thank
Today,
you.
it's like Tyler's here. We're just talking about some amazing topics, and we're seeing so many things come out from it. Before we go into a song break, since we're kind of talking about, the environment, which is a really big issue at the moment.
It is huge.
Wherever you're taking your information from, it is a very big issue. One thing I was it was a wake-up call for me about 2-3 years ago. I had to go back to the States for a reason. And I realized how systematic Korea had put me into recycling because of, we have our food waste that goes into a separate bin. We pay for it if there's an excessive amount.
It's true.
We also have, plastics, and we're breaking down that even more at the moment. So there's a lot of things that the government has kind of just naturally put on us that could be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But we're able to still kind of get ahead of the game in it.
That's true.
As you've been living here, and just either based on what is in the book, is there anything that we can still do? Because there's always more that we could do. So is there anything else that we could maybe try to work against to kind of help out?
So if you check out the book, there are actually 10 actions that you can take in your daily life that can help out. But really, at the end of the day, when you look into the math, in order to solve the environmental crisis, there are basically 2 actions that you have to take.
Okay.
Number 1 is when you vote. Do not vote for someone who does not have a plan about the environment.
Okay.
It's that simple. Just check if they have a plan or not. And if they have a better plan than someone else, that's great.
Okay.
When you vote, exercise your right and choose a world that is better to live in.
Okay.
Right? That's number 1. Number 2 is we live in a capitalistic society. We use money, and that money is just the same as voting. So when you buy a product, make sure to double check to see if there's a certification on the product, to see if that company is making some sort of effort or not. If it's a clothing store, do they have a spot for you to bring your clothes back so that they can reuse them when they make another product?
Right.
Or, if it's a fast food place, do they have a vegetarian option on their menu? Yes or no? If it's a cafe, do they have FSC certified cups or not? Are they giving you the option to use a mug or not? These kind of basic things. Is the person that I'm giving this money to using it well?
Right, because if the consumer stops supporting places that don't, that particular place will change.
Exactly.
Because their numbers are going down.
And that's just the logic of the system that we live in. So it's really important to support companies that are trying to make a difference.
Right. I mean, because it's not going to happen overnight.
No, not at all.
So it was, as long as you can see like maybe one of your favorite brands, at least trying to make some type of effort.
Yes, very true.
Okay. So we're talking about the environment. We're talking about Tyler's life as a TV personality and so much more on our Insider for today. So if you have any more questions and messages, continue to send those in. In the meantime, though, as our Insider continues on, we got some more music for you to enjoy. A Pink is singing 고마워, thank you, and more of our shows coming up after this. It's a second hour K-Poppin on a Wednesday. Today is Children's Day, 어린이날 here in Korea, and we've got one of the most most high energy insiders in the studio with me at the moment. Tyler Rasch is here. We're talking about so many cool things. He has a book out. It's a bestseller. If you haven't checked it out yet, go check it out. We're talking about kind of his stay in Korea. So far we talked about how you came to Korea, how you got into broadcasting.
Yes.
But why are you still here, if you don't mind me asking?
No, that's a good question.
Because I feel that Korean Americans, just off broadcast, we kind of joke around that Korea is a black hole.
Yeah.
And it kind of just sucks you in.
I feel like that's a really good expression because even for me and some of my friends who, they came here for grad school and they went back home, they wind up coming back. It's the weirdest thing. It's like this space that Korea is, this ecosystem has some sort of gravitational pull, and I don't know why, but it happens. And I think, my personal assessment is that, Korea was not really a very diverse place in the beginning, right? But more and more and more different ways of thinking and living and all this kind of stuff are popping up. Right. And I think Koreans are more and more open to thinking differently about their own lives. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of opportunity in the market right now if you want to, try starting a new business. Right. If you want to, like I did, write a book about the environment. People will tell you hey, I'm going to write a book about the environment. They're like, oh my God, don't do that. It's not going to sell. It's a really bad idea. People don't like that topic. But then I wrote the book and people loved it. It's a bestseller. Right? So I think Korea's in this position where it's really ready to taste new flavors and to try new things. And having access to a platform where if I want to try something new, that opportunity usually opens itself up, means that I can do more here and try more here and learn more here and experiment more. So I think that's why I wound up staying.
And your plans on staying are probably...
I don't have plans. So I think by default, not having plans means I'm going to be here until I make plans to leave.
Right. No, but and it's true. We always kind of joke about it, but Korea is just so convenient to live in as well.
Yes,
whether you have a car or not, the way that our systems are set up with transportation, with how everything is connected. Yes, it is a small country, but still, everything is very compact and we're all kind of here.
Yes, that's so true.
Yeah, and the food is great.
The food is great. Yes.
Yes. We originally had a food Olympics prepared for you.
Oh, wow.
So we could find out your favorite foods, but we're running over time.
Okay.
So Tyler, on the show, this is a promise that I have an excuse to bring you back in the studio.
Awesome.
Later down the line so we can kind of quiz you on your favorite foods and stuff like that.
I would love that. This has been so much fun. Can I just put that out there? Anytime you want to do this again, just let me know.
So before you go though, if there's anything coming up that you want to maybe give out a shout out to the listeners too, I'll give you some time to do that.
Actually, so since, we've been talking about the environment a little bit, there's a really, really big environmental conference, super important environmental conference is coming up this year in South Korea. It's called P4G, like the letter P, the number 4, and the letter G. It's a big international conference where people from CEOs from companies all around the world, as well as heads of state, are going to come together to talk about how to actually craft and implement solutions to the climate crisis.
Okay.
So keep your eye out for that. You're probably going to see some information about that in your news feed. Maybe you'll see some stuff about it on TV. But when it happens, it's going to be really important. So check it out, and I'll be partaking in the events as well.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you, Tyler. You said on the show that you will be willing to come back. So that's been recorded. Thank you for joining us. Happy Children's Day, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Awesome. Bye.
Taking me out of the studio today is 동방신기's version of Pungsan Balloons, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, same place.